Welcome back to the Renngineering YouTube and podcast, and welcome to episode 2 of Porsche in the Park 2024. The episode you're about to see is with the owner of a Carrera GT. Now, for me, the hook is, or that I was thinking of going into this conversation is, what is it like to take delivery of a Carrera GT? It must be pretty mind-blowing. I know I'd be jumping around like a child, and I'm sure you would be as well. Stick in the comments below and let me know how you think you'd react, and then how you really react. Well, that's what I thought I was going to get into the conversation about, and then quickly found out that this guy has raced in the 24 hours of Daytona, has had just a few days after passing his test and nearly put himself out of action altogether, and has owned a variety of amazing Porsche. So stay tuned for this episode. You're going to want to watch it, and then I'll catch you back up at the end. Welcome to the Renngineering YouTube and podcast, and welcome to a very special episode being shot today. We are here at Porsche in the Park on 2024. This is the first ever live audience, so thank you so much for joining me. Normally I'm on my own or with a company like Paul Stevens or Design 911, so actually it's lovely to be here and have a live audience with me. My guest today, Graeme. Welcome, Graeme.
Hi.
Hi. There's a car that most people would aspire to if you're a Porsche owner that you own. And this is a heritage episode. So this is basically everything to do with someone's journey from their early years all the way through to where they are right now. You own a Carrera GT, sir.
I do, yes. Yeah,
I mean,
black car.
Yeah. Right. So rather than go straight to what owning a Carrera GT is like, because that's pretty significant, if I can take you all the way back to your youth, where did cars come into your life? What was the first ignition for that?
No, cars came into my life when I was born, according to my mother. So, God rest her soul, she died many years ago. But she always said the first word I ever spoke before mum and dad was car.
Really?
And when I was born, we lived in a flat in Edgware above a used car dealership. Excuse me. And she blamed my obsession with cars on my brain being poisoned by all the deadly fumes from the used car dealership underneath where we lived. So, yeah, I was always car mad as a kid. A toddler, I'll be running up to cars. I knew all the different makes and the models. And, yeah, it's just always been an obsession. I suppose my obsession with 911s, that didn't start too much later on. I was born in 61. So this would have been back in probably 1991. I had a very good friend of mine I'd known for a while. And he had a 180 horsepower SC in white, which he'd owned for quite a time. I'd never been in it, never drove it. And then he bought an 89 3.2 Carrera coupe in diamond blue metallic, which was an absolutely mint car. And I was over at his house one evening, and Russ said to me, "Why don't you take it for a spin?" And I went, no, I'm not interested. And he said, no, go on, you love it. I went, no, it's not my thing. Yeah, they were very much, if you imagine 91, they were very much the sort of the yuppie car image.
Yeah.
And anyway, he badgered me, and I said, all right, then I'll take it for a spin. So, I got in the car. I said, you coming with me? He went, no, you go on your own.
I mean, that alone, right? The first moment that someone gives you a pair of keys, and it's happened to me before as well, the first time that someone gave me a very, very nice Rennsport 911 STR and said, go and have some fun. There's a very different feel between that and somebody coming out in a car with you, which I've had loads of times. So that's all your mindset's totally different.
Yeah, completely. And so I thought, okay, that's real nice of him. So I disappeared off in his car, and honestly, it blew me away. I'd never driven anything that was so tactile. A very visceral experience. The way the steering worked, the way you had to put effort into the brakes, and I just fell in love with it. It just felt as you were driving down the road. If you ran over a matchbox, you could tell what make of matches was in the box.
Yeah, that's a great way. And
having come from various cars, a lot of Fords and fast stuff, I was just amazed with it. And I think I was gone, according to Russell, for about 50 minutes.
Right. So I'm going to stop you there because I don't want to go straight into the 911, the Porsche experience. I want to take you a little bit further back there. So let's go back to you're really interested in cars. You can tell all the makes and models. But what was the first car? What do you start out in? Because
For me, I know I started out in a really rotten old thing. Was that your experience, or were you kind of?
Yeah. So my uncle gave me a 1964 Triumph Herald.
Okay, that's better.
Which was, I was 16 at the time, just coming up to my 17th birthday. Spent a lot of time cleaning and polishing it, trying to make it look pretty again. And then it failed its MOT on horrendous rust. And the cost of, welding it all up, it just went to the scrapyard. So my first car after passing my driving test was a Sunbeam Stiletto Imp.
Okay, that's a pretty cool car, yeah.
Which I had for precisely 25 hours until I hit a tree in it, and that didn't end well. So
how old were you at this point? You were
17.
17, right. Okay.
I passed my test 20 days after my 17th birthday.
Nice.
And I learned to drive in my uncle's Mark II Jaguar.
Nice. I mean, that's a great car to learn.
Well, back then they were smashing them up on the Sweeney every week.
Right,
so,
yeah.
So they weren't worth any real money. And I ended up taking the test in it because the where we lived, there was a local driving school. And I went up there and said, I need to borrow one of your cars for my driving test. And they said, no, it doesn't work that way. You need a series of lessons. And I was like, no, I don't need to do that. So in the end,
you're going to pass your test without any lessons.
So, I literally, my uncle helped teach me to drive, and I ended up going to the test centre with the Mark II Jag and going out on my test in that. The driving examiner, he was a nice fella in all honesty. He wasn't best pleased that my uncle said, no, I'm going in the back of the car. And he said, no, not on a no, it's my car, I'm going in the back. So I'm thinking, well, I've failed my test to start with because my uncle won't play ball with a driving instructor or examiner. So that was that. So, the Stiletto was short-lived. Ended up with a broken jaw and a broken nose from that, which wasn't great.
Wow, it was a proper smash there.
Oh, no, it was proper, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't good.
And those are the days where there was no airbags, no kind of safety restraint systems.
No.
Did you have a belt on at all?
No, I don't think I did because I broke my nose on the gear knob and my jaw on the steering wheel. Wow. So, it wasn't good.
Not pleasant. But it didn't deter you from being into cars, right? The touchmaker was lit and you were off anyway. So
the bizarre thing to that, in all honesty, was that it probably was, I don't know, 15, 20 years before I actually remember what happened in that Stiletto. I had no memory of it other than waking up in hospital.
Right.
And then one day it came back, funny enough, in Kerry, my wife's parents' house, just sitting there watching telly. I'm like, oh shit, that's what happened. Bizarre, yeah. It's just like something unlocked. So So after that, what did we buy? A 1970 Hillman Hunter.
Okay.
Which I had for about a year, 8-reg. And then I suppose my first, I got quite lucky. A neighbour of where my father lived had a Mark 1 3-litre GXL Capri 74 car.
Okay.
And Dad said, I can't remember the guy's name. He said, he's selling his Capri. You interested?
Were you interested? Because a Capri is a bit of a strange one, isn't it?
No,
sort of sporty, but sort of...
Well, it was a quick car back in its day. Back in the day, this would have been 79, 80, I guess. There wasn't much around that was as quick as a 3-litre Capri.
Yeah. We're very blessed these days with these hypercars.
Oh,
outrageously fast. But back in the early 80s or 80, there was limited options. 200 brake horsepower car was the fastest car on the road.
Exactly. So. And they were, whatever they were back then, about 140 horsepower. So they were, good looking car, really. So I rang a friend of mine, who again had a friend of his who was actually a trainee chef who had a 3-litre Capri. And I said, can you find out who he insures his car with? Because that's going to be, and I remember, I think I paid £230 for the year third party fire and theft. And then I stayed with that insurance company for about 30 years. Until the guy retired,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So you bought the Capri then? How was that experience?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it taught you how to drive because they were quite tail happy.
Yeah.
But
you've been in rear-wheel drive, but obviously to the Mark II Jag's rear-wheel drive. So
the Mark II Jag.
Were you swinging the tail out?
No,
nothing like that, no?
Not with my uncle in the car. Although I did actually do a wheel spin on my driving test.
Yeah.
We were turning right, bizarrely, we were turning right at a set of traffic lights on my test, on the exam. And lights had turned red. I just started to pull across the road and the guy coming the other way jumped the lights. So I had to nail it, or accelerate quickly, should we say, to avoid the inevitable impact.
Yeah.
And in doing so, spun up the inside rear wheel, and I didn't brake the swervers up to 13 first, and just went through the gears, didn't speed. And I thought, well, that's blown it, isn't it? You know. But yeah, he accepted that it was I took the right course of action, otherwise we'd have had an accident.
Yeah.
And I suppose particularly as it would have hit him on his side, he was definitely pleased that
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So getting back to the Capri, then you've enjoyed the Capri. How long did you have that for?
Oh, how long did I have that for? A couple of years, I suppose. Yeah. And then a mixture of sort of, I suppose, Fords after that, really. Various Fords. I've had
any greatest hits? Anything particularly special out of that list of Fords?
What do we have? An XL, I bought an XR4 before I 2.9, and I had a twin turbo Technics kit on that.
Oh, okay.
So that went really well. That was sort of, had more torque than the standard Sierra Cosworth at the time, you know. A few bits and pieces like that, various Garadas, and but nothing. I suppose the most special car that I bought back then would have been a V12 XJS 88 car.
Okay.
There was a lovely car. Yeah, I had that for a couple of years before I got into the Porsches.
Right. Nice segue, sir.
Yeah.
So that first Porsche drive, you've been given the keys, 50 minutes in the car on your own. Talk me through that first. Was it a get in the car, orientate yourself, to what it is, and then go out and enjoy it? Were you a bit nervous? Did you know anything about the brand?
No, not really. I wasn't nervous about it. Obviously careful because it wasn't my car. But it just fitted like a glove. I just got on with it. Went for a drive on my own. It just blew me away. And literally, I guess within 6 weeks, because I got out of the car and I said to Russ, well, two things. First of all, his wife at the time, I wasn't married to anymore, she was quite neurotic. And she said, you got to call the police. He's written the car off. So he said, no, he's just out enjoying himself. She said, no, I'm telling you, he smashed the car up. You need to phone the police. You got to report this to the police. And he's going, no, leave him. He's having a good time. And I hadn't smashed the car up. I just was having a good time. So, I got back to Russ's and I said, I've got to get one of these.
Nice.
And sure enough, I guess about 6 weeks later, I bought my own 88 3.2 Carrera Sport Coupe in Guards Red.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a yuppie spec car, right?
Very much black leather, red piping on the seat.
Yeah,
so it was
very cool.
proper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did it take long to find that, or was it kind of first time you saw?
No, literally. I can't remember how famous. There was a guy that used to sell cars from his house in out Rysick Way called James Burke. And it might have been where Russell bought his car. And he said, go and see James, see what he's got. Went to see James, nice fella. And literally had this 88 3.2 there. It looked absolutely mint. And we agreed, obviously, with the price. And that was it. That started the journey.
Nice. Okay. How long did you have that one for?
2 years. It would have been.
There's a pattern here. The 2 year mark is the kind of fall off bit.
Well, no, the 2 year part just came about because, amusingly, my friend Russell is a professional photographer, and he used to get his car serviced by Mike Pickup.
Mm-hmm.
He used to have a garage on the Finchley Road.
Mm-hmm.
Mike used to prepare quite a lot of race cars for what was then the Porsche Production Championship. And Mike said to Russ, will you come along to Brands Hatch for the first race of the year? I want you to do a load of shots of the race cars out on the circuit. In return, I'll do you a service or something for nothing,
Sure, yeah.
So Russ rang me, he said, I'm going to Brands. You fancy coming along? Well, yeah, okay. He got 3 tickets. His young son, Julian, came along. So we went there. We spent the day and we were watching, obviously, other stuff and the Porsche racing. And we both looking at each other, think, God, I'd love to have a go at doing this, So I thought, okay, I'm going to take this a bit more seriously. So I approached a couple of companies that we did work with and bought stuff from and tried to get some sponsorship money to start doing a bit of racing. We just moved house and the deal I had with Kerry was if I got the sponsorship money or some sponsorship money, I'd sell the road car and buy a race car. And if I didn't get any sponsorship money, I'd sell the road car and put the money into the house. Well, I got some sponsorship money.
Nice. Okay. Good.
So I sold the road car back to James Burke, gave me the same money for it. I paid for it, which was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a 3.2 Carrera Super Sport,
Wow, that's
which was a road legal race car.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that first drive of that Super Sport, what was that like? Because a road car is very different to a circuit car, right? So did you do much testing in it? Were you spending much time kind of developing the car, or was it?
No, I mean, because you're pretty naive back then, so you just sort of presume that if the car looks good, it was in that what do they call? I call it the raspberry chewit colour, but the ruby stone red was the colour when I bought it. And
now that's one of the most desirable cars for any Porsche, right? You've got PCS cars being inspected every single day.
Exactly.
For vast amounts of money for that car.
Yeah, no, I had it. I think after the first year, I bought it in around June of '93, and for the following seasons, I had it repainted polo silver. And but yeah, no, getting used to it. Well, first of all, which I didn't know, in reality, the car was really tired. It wasn't making the right sort of horsepower. The suspension was all tight, very tired on the car, which made it a lot harder to learn. And then I approached some other guys that I bumped into at the circuit that were running race cars, and they were running a couple of front running cars, and said, would you be interested in running my Super Sport? Well, one of the guys, he actually built the car originally and raced it himself back in the day. So I gave them the car. We put all new suspension on it, new anti-roll bars, new shocks, new torsion bars, rebuilt the engine, rebuilt the gearbox, and that caused a bit of a problem because basically my budget for '94 had gone.
I was about to say,
on preparing the car.
Yeah, I mean, you've invested a fair amount of money of your own, and you've got sponsorship, but then redeveloping a car from scratch to get it ready to be actually effective and to put some good times in is another load of money, right? So it's a big commitment for you.
I mean, back then, it's 30 years ago. Obviously, the numbers are far greater now. Back then, you could still do it for, I think I'd spent 12 grand.
Right, okay.
Nowadays, I don't think that'd get you an air-cooled engine rebuild.
It wouldn't get you anything, no.
Suspension refresh and engine rebuild.
Yeah.
And repaint the car. Although the guy who painted it, as long as I put his name down the car, did do me a good deal on it. So, we went out '94 and did the first race of the year was, if you like, a non-championship round, and I won the race.
Did you really? So you had some talent in terms of driving. I mean, the car's going to give you some of that.
Yeah.
Actually being that good to put some winning times in is great, right?
So that really made it feel worthwhile for spending all that money that I didn't have.
Yeah. You can look at your loving wife with a wry smile rather than for forgiveness.
Oh, she was cool. She's always been. I'm very lucky. She's always been very cool with cars, and she's always, she's terrible. She's worse than me because she said, "Well, why can't we have one of those?"
So she should be sat here.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And she loved going racing. She enjoyed the whole experience of it. Unlike most of the other sort of wives and girlfriends who'd always be panicking at the start of the race, she's like, "No, he'll be fine. He's never going to die in a car. He'll be fine."
Good.
Yeah. And I thought, well.
And you're still here.
I'm still here,
right.
So she was pretty good with that.
So that '94 season went well for you. That was the kind of
'94 season went well. Yeah, that was. I think we finished third overall in the championship that year, which was good. I raced that car in '95 as well in the same Porsche Cup by then, as it was called. But the competition was getting harder with. Very well developed 968 Club Sports.
Yeah.
And a pair of twin brothers that had, there's a couple of guys ran 928 GTSs, and one, they had an awful lot of money, and their GTS was just a work of art, They put a titanium pedal box in the car. Door handles were titanium. I mean, the car still weighed 1,400 odd kilos.
Yeah.
But they own a company that produced specialist parts for the aircraft industry, and they were very, very wealthy guys. So, yeah.
Okay. So, did you continue racing for a while? Did you retain that car?
Did for a while. '96, we built a Carrera 2, 964 Carrera 2.
Okay.
To run in the Porsche Cup in '96.
And you sold the Super Sport for this?
Yeah, I sold the Super Sport to a guy who used to race with us. He was racing a 2.4T at the time, So he sold his T, bought my Super Sport, and we built the 964 Carrera 2 for 96. And I raced that.
How'd you go on?
Second overall in the championship.
Very good, sir.
So that was,
yeah. Feeling pretty confident at this point. You developed your racecraft. And
it was getting there.
Yeah.
It was getting there.
Yeah.
And then life and everything else, the racing had to take a bit of a back seat. We started building another race car, which was basically, it was sort of along the lines of a rough CTR. So it was a narrow-bodied 3.2 Carrera chassis with 3.3 turbo engine, basically, which had been tuned.
I mean, that's a serious big hit.
And that went well. I mean, that was about 440 horsepower, 1,100 kilos.
I mean, even by today's standards, that is a fast car.
It was a quick car back in its day.
Yeah.
And we raced in what was then called the Interspark Championship and the Open Championship, or the Open was a series of races. So we did the Interspark Championship, and I think it was 99. I won the class in the overall championship in that car.
Amazing.
Which was, that was good fun. Yeah.
Very good.
Day before my birthday.
Not bad. Not bad at all. So where did that go then? Because it sounds like, my brief, by the way, was very limited in terms of Graeme's background. So I didn't know about his racing career. Did it continue on, or did it?
Yeah. So I had that I kept the car for a couple of years, did some odd races with it. Got sold to a guy that started doing racing and was sort of doing organised track days where he'd sell rides in the car. And the company that then ran it was a company called Jazz Porsche, and they nicknamed the car the Animal, and that sort of because it was an animal, it was a handful to drive. And it now belongs to a guy called Owen, I can't remember his surname, who has a YouTube channel. Who I think he actually went at auction this year, but it didn't meet the reserve, unfortunately, which is a shame. Yeah. But it still looks pretty much like it did when I had it. But I don't think mechanically it's when the previous guy, Rupert, one of the guys who was driving it managed to blow the engine up in it. Okay. And I think it was never quite the same since, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. So your knowledge of Porsche has kind of escalated pretty quick, because if you're racing the cars, you're kind of developing or helping develop them. So did you own a personal car at any point through all this, or was Porsche the racing car?
I know I still have, when finance is allowed, I still have my own car as well. I suppose the greatest thing I've ever done was I'm very good friends with a guy called Mark Sumter who owns Paragon.
Okay.
Obviously, I met Mark because he started racing the year after I started, back in '94. So he was a competitor. He's a very good driver, and we've remained very good friends ever since. And we went down to his house. We were staying the weekend with him, with Kerry, and we only been there about 2 minutes. And he said, "You don't fancy going to do the Daytona 24-hour?"
Wow. Okay.
And I'd raced for about 2 years actually, and Kerry said yes before I did.
Yeah.
So went, he's up for that. So so I said, okay. We talked about what the number was going to be to do it, and a guy called Mike Jordan, back then it was JWR Racing. Mike Jordan, whose son Andy Jordan races, he was a British touring car driver. So I went and did a test day with Mike at Silverstone on the national circuit in a cup car, 996 Cup. We were going to be racing a 996 GT3R. So I'd never driven a cup car before. And I think at that time I hadn't driven a left-hand drive race car either. So I turned up there and I had my deposit check with me. And I'd obviously met Mike because he was running guys that I was racing against in the pool stuff. And I said, "Oh, do you want the check?" He went, no, we'll sort it out later. And of course, the reality was he wasn't going to take the check until he'd seen how I got in the cup car. I didn't really give that a lot of thought. So went out in the cup car on a track day. We did some obviously sessions during the day. There was no pit board, no timing. He wasn't going to tell you what he was doing. All he did was give me a few pointers because, 996 Cup, the way you get them into corners is a bit different to the way the early stuff works. So I had to learn that. So by the end of the day, Mike does what he normally does, and he'll walk around to every single corner on the circuit, watch the car, watch the attitude of the car coming through the corners.
Yeah, sure.
And at the end of the day, we're sort of packing up to go home, and I said, how do we get on? So the mechanic guy was with him said, because 2 weeks previous, Mark and Mike had done a 2-driver race there, 1 hour, Bill Taylor Memorial race on the national circuit. And he said, you're a tenth slower than Mike was in qualifying on knackered slicks.
Wow.
He took my check.
And this is after 2 years off, a bit of a break.
Yeah,
right? Wow.
yeah. And he took the check, and that was it. And we went and did Daytona.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And what was the experience of being in Daytona?
Well, that was.
Do you remember? Was it a complete blur? Or
No, that was a baptism of fire, because I'd never driven. These guys, the other guys were racing in British GTs and doing European GT series as well. I'd never done anything like that.
Yeah,
all I'd done was club racing.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, on a circuit that's got banking, which I'd never driven on before, and you've got LMP cars out there that are so much quicker than what you are, plus Corvettes and Marcuses and God knows what else. And of course, the problem is you don't recognise, particularly at night. I've got no idea what the headlights are behind, so I don't know if it's an LMP car or a guy I'm racing with.
But at the same time, you want to be quick yourself, right? You don't want to be just backing off and letting everyone pass. You want to get the hammer down. So
it's a real head. It really screws with your head, especially because I mean, we were there for 10 days, and I remember going down. I think it was the day after we arrived, we went down. 17 of us in the team, including Kerry. She came along to help and support me. And we went down there, and you could go out. We looked at the museum, and then they take you out on a trolley bus around the circuit and show you different areas. And I can't remember what the banking was. It's something like 37 degrees or whatever it was. Yeah, exactly. It's steep. You struggle to walk up it without falling over, put it that way. So we pulled up, and the guy's obviously talking, explaining what's going on. And we're looking at this banking, thinking, bloody hell, this is going to be a bit, And it all went quiet. Kerry turned around to me and she said, you must be off your effing head. And which everyone on the trolley bus, I just rolled up. They thought I was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's too late to get a note from my mum, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to do it.
Yeah.
So that was a real baptism of fire, because when you think, we're doing down the front straight, which isn't a straight, it's still a curve. We're pulling on over 180 mile an hour down there, and you've got LMP cars still, you're on the brakes and they're still accelerating.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're coming by you each side.
And it's not even just, doing that for 1 lap or 2 laps is one thing, but doing it hour after hour.
Yeah.
The fatigue setting in and the sun setting. And all, I mean, how do you adapt to that? Because that's...
No, it was cool. I guess it was just being, 20 years younger than I am now, and the adrenaline kicked in. I remember after I did the first session, I thought we're going to lay down in the motor, but I couldn't sleep. I was up the whole time. I think most of us were. Yeah. And we stayed up most of the next day because we went out celebrating.
Unbelievable.
But it was a hell of a thing to do. Absolutely, an event that will stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So we didn't win, so I didn't get a watch, which was a shame. It was the 40th anniversary of the Rolex at the time. And I think our only claim to fame was we finished, I think, 13th overall, something like that. But we were the only UK entered car with all UK drivers to have ever finished the race.
I mean,
that was something.
That's a hell of an accolade.
Yeah,
you should be very proud of that. Yeah. Wow. So Daytona's done. It's in the bank. You're relaxed now. You come back. You've had a good sleep.
Yeah.
You reset. What's next in your car?
I didn't really do anything. I did another couple of races with a guy in a 996 Cup. And then I did about 4 or 5 races in 2004 in a 996 Super Cup car with another guy called Pete Chambers. And then much of it after that was more hit and miss, but I still had road car stuff. I had 993s. I had a lovely... we were at Spa in '98. I wasn't racing. I was helping run some cars with Mark actually, and I had a E300 diesel Mercedes at the time, estate. Kerry hated it. She said it was an old man's car. And
it was an old man's
car. And she was talking to Mark Sumter's wife, Pip, and I said, I really want to get rid of this, get another 911. I want to get a turbo. She goes, oh, get Graeme to speak to Mark. He's got a woman that he spoke to who's got a real nice 964 36 turbo that she wants to sell. And I bought that car. It was a black car.
A black 36?
It was a black 36 turbo, black interior, red leather, red piping.
Wow.
Off a woman who lived down in Sussex, who I went down to see the car. I actually rang her up when we got back from Spa, and she said, I've sold it back to Rivervale. And I said, well, I'm not a dealer, which I wasn't. I said, I want it as my own car.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give you £1,000 more than what they're going to pay for you. And she said, I'll have a think about it, bring me back in half hour, which I did. And I said, I'll come down there and have a look at it. So I went down and looked at the car.
Were you going to have a look at the car, or do you already make the decision you're going to buy it?
Oh, no, I was going to buy it.
Yeah.
If it was a good car, as long as it wasn't a dog, I was going to buy it. So, I wasn't going to mess her around. And literally, she walked into Rivervale a couple of years previously with a videotape of Bad Boys.
That's where everyone's mind's going, right, straight away to Bad Boys.
I want a Bad Boys car. Can you find me one?
Yeah.
And that was it. And she bought that car, and she had it a couple of years.
Please tell me you still got that car.
No, I sold it.
Heartbroken.
I sold it. I had that for quite a few years, I guess, probably 8 or 9 years. And that's one of the cars I should have kept.
Yeah.
So I actually sold it to Mark. Mark booked that off me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gave me back what I paid for it, which was okay at the time.
At the time?
But now, obviously, they're worth a little bit more money.
Captain Hindsight kicks in. Anyway.
Yeah. It's funny because I haven't seen that car, because this would have been, when did I sell that? 08, I guess. And the car seemed to disappear off the radar because I've never seen another one, because there wasn't many right-hand drive UK 36 turbos. I can't remember what the number was. I think it was something like 42 cars or something. It was low, maybe 36. Something like that.
Yeah.
And I never saw it again because it was non-metallic black. There was quite a few, there was a couple of metallic black. This is non-metallic jet black. And funny enough, Mark, I think it was end of last year, sent me some pictures. The car's been living in Northern Ireland, which is why I haven't seen it over here.
Why?
So
nice.
Yeah.
So that's the highlight of the car bomb. Most people's car buying career. That's the tippy top. So
it was nice. I had one slightly better than that, which is why I sold the 3.6. Was I bought an 993 GT2 Evolution. 98 car. Yeah.
Okay, right.
That was ocean blue.
Where did you find that? Was that on
no,
a mate
that
of a
was,
mate of a mate? Or?
No, that was, it was through a mate. So a guy called Thomas Schmidt in Germany. He seems to, he deals a lot of those specialist cars. And a friend of mine, Vic, rang Thomas and said I was looking for a GT2, but it had to be a real nice car.
Yeah.
And this one was coming available. It come from Germany, but the guy who bought it had it in storage, hadn't used it, hadn't even registered it. And I got the car inspected by Phone Sport up at Silverstone back then. And he went through the car, and literally the only thing he pulled it on was it needed new plates and a limited slip diff.
Right.
Another friend of mine came up and looked at it who really knew bodywork, went over the car, and it was beautiful. It was ocean blue metallic, which is a lovely colour with a turquoise hue in it.
Yeah.
And I bought that. So I had that and the 3.6 at the time, and I sort of felt a bit guilty.
So you won't leave the garage? I think I'd just be parked up in the garage with a beer in one hand and a cigar in the other, and just think, wow, just out life pretty much.
Well, the house we lived in at the time, when we did the extension to put the big garage on, you could sit in the carriage and see two of the cars.
Unreal.
So, you could sit there and, be doing paperwork and looking at the cars.
Yeah, very nice.
So I had that sold that in 2010 back to Thomas Schmidt. He bought the car back from me. And that ended up for a few years with the president of the French Porsche Owners Club.
Okay.
And then I think 2 years ago, it must be now, it was sold to a Chinese guy in London. I haven't seen the car. I haven't obviously met the guy. I quite
like the fact you're tracking the old cars and kind of knowing where they are.
I
is this just the inner fraternity of Porsche ownership, and actually just know everybody at that point, or is it just your personal thing?
I've met a lot of people over the years, and made really good friends with people, and we've stayed friends for many years. Yeah, I met the GT9 and 3 GT2. Through that is how I met Mike, who owns Ashgood Cars, and we've been best mates ever since.
Right.
I knew him before he started Ashgood. He had a GT2, now 9 and 3 GT2. I think it's because friends, Vic rang me up and he said, "Oh, your GT2 has just been sold." It went for about 9 times what I sold it for in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's life.
Yeah, it's like you
just
can't.
got to move on.
No, at the end of the day, you make a choice at the time whether right or wrong, and you can't worry about it. It just is what it is, isn't it?
So we're not that far away from modern times. So given that the Carrera GT, when did the Carrera GT come out? 2012, isn't it?
2004 was the first.
2004, sorry, of course, yeah. So where did that creep in then?
This was probably about, when would it have been, just over 9 years ago. And it's bizarre really, because back in the day when the Carrera GTs were new, I wasn't overly impressed with them. I sort of thought they were a bit of almost looked like an overgrown Boxster in many ways, And I didn't take to the
side. Boxster owners just disappeared.
That's cool. I don't mean any offence.
No, I know.
Absolutely not. I think, I love everything and anything, But at the time, they didn't do it for me,
Even the engineering package behind it.
Because I just thought, so that 993D2 to me was, 993D2 Uber, there was 21 cars.
Yeah.
And it just seemed so much more special. I mean, I still think they're probably one of the best looking 911s ever built. I just adore the look of it. Yeah. And then, it was about 9.5 years ago, I was humming and hawing, thinking, I do like the look of them. And you say, I like the fact the V10 engine, mechanical engineering behind them. And I've sort of woken up to them a little bit. And we hummed and hawed about whether to put the money into a Carrera GT or possibly a 962.
Okay, wow, that would have been that's a different ownership proposition.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. And Kerry actually quite fancied the idea of the 962.
Did you?
Yeah, she did back in the day. But I think my head ruled my heart in saying that the market for, if you had to get out of the Carrera GT, there's a far bigger market there for selling a Carrera GT
for
than there is for a very 100% race orientated 962.
Yeah.
So I did the sensible thing and bought the Carrera GT.
I love that. The sensible thing of bought the Carrera GT.
Yeah.
Amazing. What was that? That moment, because you've had some special cars, and I know you've always said you're sort of semi-lukewarm when you first saw the Carrera GT, but when you went and actually saw one, sat there and thought, I can sign something and this could be my car. Did you? Because for me, if I was sat there and someone said, yeah, you can buy that, I would probably melt. I think it would be at that point. So
yeah, I think the first thing is you're thinking, this is obviously an awful lot of money, and you don't want to get it wrong.
No.
So you need to know that the car is not an accident damaged car. It's got the right history with the car. So the car was for sale down at Romans International, and Mark at Paragon said, I'll meet you there, come and have a look at the car with you, because he's owned one from new. Still got it. He's never sold it, yeah.
And because you build these relationships up, you can make those sorts of requests.
Yeah, exactly.
Say,
because I talked to him about, did I think I was making the right decision, get one? Which he said, yeah, absolutely. And he said, let's try and find you the right car. So we found this one at Romans, went to have a look at it, and looking through the history file, he had to laugh because two of the previous owners, I knew one of them because he used to race with the guy.
Right, okay.
And Mark had sold the car twice before.
Really, right. So the provenance was all there.
So he knew the car. No, that was it. No, he knows the car. Yeah, this is a good car. It's not a problem. It's never been painted. It's never been in an accident. So we bought the car. So we were signing the paperwork, and we were just chatting about. Kerry didn't start. She didn't pass the test in 1999, and she only took automatic, so she can't drive manual. So we were signing the paperwork, and Mark says to me, we were chatting about clutch and how tricky it can be getting used to it, the manual gearbox and everything else. And Kerry turned around and said, you mean to tell me this car's a bloody manual? And Mark says, yeah, sorry, Kerry, you just bought another car you can't drive.
Oh, heartbreaking.
So, yeah.
Did you, so tell me about the spec, right? Let's go back to, what colour is it? Is it the classic?
It's a black car.
Black car, okay, yeah.
No, I didn't want silver. It's basalt black with full black leather interior.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think something like, the numbers are 50% of production went to the US.
Yeah.
11% of total production was black. So out of 11, what's that? That's about 140 cars, of which how many of those are black and not black and asphalt interior? I don't know.
Mm.
So it's relatively a relatively smallish number of cars that are black with black interior. It's an 06 car. It's a very late car. I think it's chassis number 1121 out of 1270. So it's quite a late car as well.
Mm. Driving at home, first drive. What was that like?
I didn't drive it. I didn't drive it. No, I didn't. I got them to deliver the car because I'll tell you why. Because it was November, and the weather was absolutely.
All right.
The roads had been salted.
Yeah.
It was all crap.
No, that makes sense.
No way I was going to drive it, so they delivered the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the worst. I mean, it's the best time to buy financially. Worst time to buy in terms of enjoyment.
Well, exactly, because it was probably not until whatever it was, March, April time, till the weather picked up, that I actually got to take the car out for a little bit of a drive.
Agony.
Well, we just kept going in the garage looking at it.
Yeah, well, you would.
Yeah, almost every time you go in the garage and have a look at it, you notice something slightly different, some little no
some detail.
Some detail,
Yeah, okay. So you've been patient all the way through the winter. You get to that kind of spring, the salt's been cleared off the roads. You look out the window and you go, I've got nothing on today. I'm going to go and take the Carrera GT for a drive.
Yeah.
Talk me through that moment.
Oh, crikey. It's quite a few years ago now. I suppose one of the biggest problems you got with Carrera GT is the ride height's very low. So even where we lived at the time in Northwood, the driveway had a slight slope to it as it met the curb. And it was a real...
No nose lift or anything with those
No,
cars, right?
not standard. You can get KW suspension, do a suspension kit for those with lift.
Okay.
But it's, I don't know, it's over 20 grand.
Plus you're then making a car that's very limited, not completely standard, and if you're looking for one, you probably want one that's not the best.
This is where you get caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, really, because for usability, they need a lift kit.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, everywhere you go, you've got to plan your journey thinking, if there's any speed bumps, I can't get over them.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, whether or not my car at the front's been set by Redding to be a little bit lower than some of the others, I don't know. And maybe you could lift the front a little bit, but even so, it just becomes a panic.
Yeah.
Obviously, the clutch takes, it's a heavy clutch. That takes a bit of getting used to. So you really need to use. It's got an anti-stall system on the car, and you really need to let the anti-stall system do its job. So you let the clutch out, let the clutch bite. You'll hear the revs flare, and then you can just ease the clutch out on the way, let the car pull away. But it's because it has effectively zero flywheel inertia on those cars. Because I don't know if you most people know, but the clutch pack is ceramic and it's about 6 inches in diameter.
Yeah, it's tiny, isn't it?
Tiny thing.
Yeah.
So it's got no flywheel inertia.
Yeah.
So if you get it millimetrically wrong on the clutch, you just stall it. And you look really silly.
Yeah.
So I've stalled it a few times, as you can imagine, as you would do. But once you get used to using the anti-stall system, it's not too bad. That is fine until you get to a roundabout, where obviously you've got to join a roundabout and you haven't got all day to just let the clutch up and let this thing trickle out into traffic, because no one's waiting for you, are they?
No, of course not.
So
especially in a flashy car like that, no one's going to be taking...
Yeah.
Really gentle with you. They're going to be like, right, get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. So then you've got to use it more like a normal clutch, or like a race clutch, really, just try and get out the clutch as quickly as you can, because you're mindful of the fact that you don't want to knacker the clutch on the car, because they are expensive.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the story I heard was, I won't say whose car it was, but he was one of the F1 drivers, had a new clutch in his Carrera GT at Reading. The guy he sent to collect the car up, or collect his Carrera GT on the transporter, burnt the new clutch out, putting it on the transporter.
Ouch.
And that's like 14 grand or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's not grand.
Insignificant amount of money.
No, it's a big number.
The time, the only, it's probably a handful of people that can work on those cars in the network.
Reading tend to do, in the UK, Porsche main dealers, Reading are the only people that can look after Carrera GTs,
Right. Yeah. Ownership experience since you've owned it? Is it caused you any dramas, any problems?
No, I mean, it's a phenomenal thing to drive. I mean, not just from the tactile sense, but the fact that the noise from that V10 engine is just glorious. And I don't think I've ever driven another car that has the throttle response that has, because again, you've got no flywheel inertia to build up. You just blip the throttle. It's just like a Formula One engine.
Yeah,
just incredible. So, but we haven't done loads with it because, like a lot of us, we end up being limited on garage space. You end up having to store certain cars away from home. And when cars aren't with you, it all becomes a pain to go and get them. And then when you do want to get them, you find that they've been buried behind 6 other cars because it just becomes a headache. So the best case scenario is to, at some point, build another couple of garages so I can have the car at home.
I mean, that's the right answer, right?
Yeah.
You're struggling, just build another garage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Best experience so far? Have you done anything? You've taken it sort of, I mean, it's extravagant, but a European road trip?
No, I haven't. No, nothing like that. I mean, I think the furthest I've been in that is Donington Park for the Secret Supercar driver meeting.
Sure.
That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's about with that. And then I've got other, another Porsche as well. So, which tends to get a lot more use than
Go
the
on.
Corona.
What's the other?
So, 1958 356A.
Beautiful. Okay. Black again?
Silver.
Silver this time.
Silver with red leather
Okay,
interior.
yeah. Perfect. And that's the car that you brought that today?
Yeah, brought that today.
Okay, well, you have to show me that in a minute afterwards.
Yeah, I've had that 5 years. Again, bought that, fun enough, through Mark at Farragon. He knew I was thinking about getting a 356. I've never driven one, never been in one. And he rang me up, and he was a car he knew very well that he sold to the guy that previously owned it to me. Said, it's coming in, would you be interested? And I said, yeah, I mean, send me some pictures, which he did. And he said, well, I said, look, subject to coming down and driving it, because I didn't even know if I fit in one.
Yeah, sure.
I've never driven one. I'll have the car. So sure enough, we went down there, me and Kerry, took it for a little drive, came back, and that was it.
Amazing.
Love it to bits. Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much, Graeme. I've really enjoyed your time today. We're going to come and have a look at the 356 in a minute, but thank you again. Thank you to everybody that's listened today.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for all listening.
If you're listening on any podcast streaming service, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're listening on watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I hope I didn't make a...
You did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode from Porsche in the Park 2024. That wraps up Porsche in the Park for this year. I'll be back next week with more episodes. Season 3 is wrapped in terms of all the shoots, and there is some incredible stuff happening. Definitely a level up from what you've seen before on YouTube. There are 50 previous episodes to go and listen to on any podcast streaming service. So don't forget, every episode drops on Thursday, somewhere in the evening, depending on how long it takes to edit those. But I will be back next week, so I'll see you soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.